For over 2,000 years, the Pope, the supreme spiritual leader of the Catholic Church, has stood as a symbol of faith, charity, and holiness. Yet behind that glowing image, are there hidden corners few dare to explore? This isn't a question of judgment, but an invitation to look deeper into a position that is both sacred and powerful, yet fraught with challenges. The Pope, as the center of the Catholic Church, is not only the guardian of faith, but also a figure entwined with major cultural, political, and societal shifts throughout history. The Church's story isn't just filled with the radiant light of virtue and belief. It also involves complex decisions and controversial episodes that still spark debate today. We revisit these stories not to seek flawless perfection, but to better understand the true meaning of the papacy, a symbol bearing divine responsibility while confronting the pressures of every era. This video offers no sweeping verdicts, only a journey grounded in historical truths and real-world context. Should we view purity not as absolute flawlessness, but as the relentless effort to preserve faith through history's trials? Let's find out together. Don't forget to hit subscribe and the bell icon to keep up with all our inspiring and insightful explorations of the Bible and the faith. The Pope is not only the leader of the Catholic Church, but also the highest religious authority on earth. This office is believed to be the direct legacy of St. Peter, the first apostle of Jesus, who was entrusted with guiding the faithful. As Jesus declared to Peter, "You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church." Matthew 16:18, establishing a sacred lineage that continues with every pope thereafter. As the representative of Christ on earth, the Pope not only safeguards doctrine, but also makes decisions with far-reaching impacts on religious life and global affairs. One of his unique powers is the ability to speak ex cathedra, that is, from the chair of authority, where his pronouncements on faith and morals are considered infallible. This ensures the Church remains unified and doctrinal changes remain aligned with Jesus' teachings. The Pope's role has also extended into politics, especially in eras when the Church played a pivotal part in national affairs. Though modern times have seen a decline in that political influence, the Pope remains a major global voice for peace, human rights, and humanitarian issues. Throughout history, the Catholic Church has grown stronger while facing numerous challenges and upheavals. In the early centuries, 1st to 4th century, after Jesus' death, Christian communities began expanding rapidly, despite brutal persecution by the Roman Empire. While many Christians were executed, apostles like St. Peter and St. Paul stood firm in their faith and continued to spread the message of Christ. St. Peter, appointed by Jesus to lead the Church, founded the Christian community in Rome. He became one of the first martyrs there, and tradition holds that he was buried at the site of today's St. Peter's Basilica. His presence in Rome laid the foundation for the future role of the Pope. By the 4th century, under Emperor Constantine's reign, Christianity was officially recognized as the state religion of the Roman Empire. This marked a historic turning point, allowing the Church to grow significantly in power. The Pope emerged not only as a spiritual leader, but also as a major influence in political and social matters within the empire. The medieval period, 5th–15th century, was when the Catholic Church reached the height of its power, both spiritual and political. The Pope held sway not just over the faithful, but also over kings and kingdoms. His authority was most evident during the Crusades, which he initiated to reclaim sacred Christian sites. One of the most striking episodes of this era was the conflict between the Church and the Roman emperors, especially the power struggle between Pope Gregory VII and Emperor Henry IV in the 11th century. The 1077 event at Canossa stands as one of the most dramatic moments in medieval European history. Here, spiritual and political powers clashed in an unprecedented battle for authority between Pope and Emperor. This wasn't just a story of conflict. It was a testament to the Catholic Church's immense influence during a time when the Pope held supreme power. In 1077, after being excommunicated by Pope Gregory VII, Emperor Henry IV traveled to the town of Canossa, and waited outside the Pope's castle in the snow, humbly pleading for forgiveness. This iconic moment symbolized the Pope's power to determine the fate of rulers and nations. In the 11th century, the clash between Emperor Henry IV of the Holy Roman Empire and Pope Gregory VII reached its peak. This fierce struggle, known as the investiture controversy, was about who had the right to appoint bishops and church officials, the Pope or the Emperor. Henry IV, a politically ambitious emperor, sought control over church appointments to reinforce his rule. On the other hand, Pope Gregory VII, a firm defender of church independence, declared that only the church held this right. To assert his stance, he issued a decree forbidding secular rulers from interfering in the appointment of clergy. When Henry IV disregarded the decree and continued appointing bishops at his own discretion, Pope Gregory VII took an unprecedented step by excommunicating Henry in 1076 and declaring him deposed. This stripped Henry of his title and shook the loyalty of German nobles toward him. In the medieval world, excommunication wasn't just a spiritual punishment. It meant total exclusion from the Christian community, something no king could afford. Pressured by German nobles eager to seize more power, Henry IV had no choice but to humble himself before the Pope and ask for forgiveness. In the harsh winter of January 1077, he undertook a long journey to Canossa, a mountaintop castle in northern Italy, where Pope Gregory VII was staying under the protection of Countess Matilda of Tuscany. Henry arrived not as an emperor in splendor, but as a penitent. He wore a sackcloth robe and walked barefoot through the biting cold. Upon reaching Canossa, he waited 3 days in the snow, from January 25th to 27, to beg for the Pope's mercy. The image of a powerful emperor kneeling for forgiveness became a symbol of papal supremacy. On the third day, Gregory VII finally opened the castle gates. In a formal ritual, Henry IV knelt before the Pope, confessed his sins, and asked for the excommunication to be lifted. Gregory, despite his firm stance, accepted the repentance and restored Henry to the church. However, Gregory VII remained skeptical of Henry's sincerity. He believed the emperor's actions were politically motivated rather than heartfelt. Still, granting forgiveness was necessary to preserve the church's image as merciful and just. The event at Canossa powerfully demonstrated the Catholic Church's dominance in medieval Europe. For the first time, an emperor, regarded as the highest secular authority, had to submit to a religious leader. It emphasized the Church's dual spiritual and political power. Despite reconciliation, tensions between the Church and the Empire persisted for decades. The struggle over the right to appoint clergy wasn't resolved until the Concordat of Worms in 1122, when both sides finally compromised. During this time, the Church also launched the Crusades, military campaigns aimed at reclaiming the Holy Land from Muslim control. These wars profoundly impacted both the Church and Europe's political and social landscapes. Initiated by the Catholic Church in the late 11th century, the Crusades began in response to a plea from Byzantine Emperor Alexios III Komnenos, who faced growing threats from the Seljuk Turks. Pope Urban II answered the call at the Council of Clermont in 1095, urging Christians to join the Holy Mission with promises of total forgiveness and heavenly rewards. Echoing the rallying cry, Deus vult, God wills it, tens of thousands from all walks of life set off, from nobles to peasants. Though faith drove many, others were motivated by glory, wealth, or the hope for a new life. Between 1096 and 1271, 9 major crusades unfolded, each with its own goals, outcomes, and consequences. The First Crusade, 1096 to 1099, marked the most successful campaigns of the Catholics, culminating in the capture of Jerusalem and the establishment of Crusader states. However, their brutality, especially the massacre of thousands of Muslims, Jews, and Eastern Orthodox Christians, left an indelible stain in history. Later crusades, such as the Second 1147 to 1149 and the Third 1189 to 1192, failed to replicate the success of the first. Nonetheless, historical figures like Richard the Lionheart of England and the great Muslim leader Saladin left a lasting legacy through military confrontations and diplomatic exchanges. The Fourth Crusade 1202-1204 took a dark turn when Crusaders diverted from the Holy Land and sacked Constantinople, capital of the Byzantine Empire, deepening the schism between Western Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy. The Crusades had profound and complex impacts. Initially, they strengthened the Catholic Church's authority, with the Pope seen as both spiritual and military leader. Yet, the continuous failures and violence tarnished the Church's image. These wars also paved the way for cultural exchanges between East and West. Europeans acquired valuable knowledge in science, medicine, and philosophy from the Islamic world, sparking significant advancements in Europe, especially during the Renaissance. Additionally, with many lords abandoning their lands for war, monarchs gained more power, leading to stronger centralized nations. Still, the Crusades left a legacy of violence and division. Hostility between Catholics and Muslims intensified, and memories of massacres in Jerusalem and Constantinople continue to haunt history. Though initiated in the name of faith, the Crusades quickly became tools of political and economic ambition. In hindsight, the Crusades are a testament to how religious belief can powerfully shape history, for better or worse. They serve as a reminder of what can happen when faith is manipulated for grand political or personal aims. The 16th century saw the Protestant Reformation, sparked by Martin Luther, which split the Catholic Church. He criticized its sale of indulgences and abuse of power, leading millions to leave Catholicism and join emerging Protestant denominations. Pope Leo X reacted strongly, but was unable to halt Protestantism's spread. Although the Catholic Church launched the Counter-Reformation, it suffered a major loss of influence, particularly across Northern Europe. In the 19th and 20th centuries, the Catholic Church faced challenges from scientific progress, political changes, and social movements. Religious wars and scandals, especially cases of sexual abuse, undermined trust in church leadership. A pivotal moment was the loss of the Papal States after Italy's unification in 1870, giving rise to the Vatican as a sovereign state. Under the leadership of Pope John Paul II, the Church overcame many of these crises. With courage and foresight, he emerged as a spiritual leader engaged in global peace and human rights movements. His successor, Pope Francis, has continued internal reforms within the Church, particularly focusing on social and environmental issues. Throughout different eras, the role of the Pope has extended beyond guiding the faithful. He also ensures unity within the Church, manages internal affairs, and at times plays a part in major political decisions. Despite ongoing challenges and controversies, the papacy remains an indispensable institution within both the Catholic Church and the wider world. The Catholic Church is known not only for its religious achievements, but also for numerous historical controversies, many of which continue to affect its public image. One of the most debated episodes in church history is the Crusades. Initiated in the 11th century by papal decree, the Crusades were military campaigns aimed at reclaiming Christian holy sites in Jerusalem from Muslim control. The First Crusade, launched by Pope Urban VI in 1096, was not only a religious mission, but also an effort to expand the Church's influence. Though presented as a sacred undertaking, the Crusades brought about widespread death and destruction, impacting not only Muslim forces, but also innocent civilians, especially Jewish communities in European cities. These campaigns, spanning several centuries, represent a dark period in church history where religious beliefs were used to justify brutality and war. Critics highlight the contradiction between Jesus' teachings of peace and love and the violent nature of these wars. By the 16th century, during the Renaissance, the Church faced significant criticism. While Europe experienced cultural and intellectual advancement, the Church was condemned for its extravagance and the excessive power of the popes. While accumulating vast wealth and constructing monumental buildings like St. Peter's Basilica, popes such as Julius II and Leo II were accused of corruption and injustice. all while many believers lived in poverty. A particularly controversial issue was the selling of indulgences, documents that granted absolution from sin. This practice, driven by financial gain, led many to feel that the church was exploiting faith for profit. Historians argue that the sale of indulgences was a key factor behind the Protestant Reformation. In 1517, Martin Luther condemned this practice, viewing it as a blatant abuse of spiritual authority, which eventually led to a major schism in Christianity and the birth of Protestant denominations. Another major controversy involved the Church's resistance to scientific thought, exemplified by the trial of Galileo Galilei. In 1633, Galileo was tried by the Catholic Church for supporting Copernicus's heliocentric model, which the Church believed contradicted Scripture. Forced to recant, Galileo's case highlighted the Church's struggle to reconcile faith with emerging scientific discoveries. Despite various reforms and changes within the Catholic Church during the 20th and 21st centuries, controversies and criticisms continue to persist. One of the most serious issues today involves sexual abuse within the Church. Since the late 20th century, thousands of cases involving priests abusing children and adults have come to light, sparking widespread outrage in both society and the faithful community. One of the most notable scandals was the Boston case in the United States, where a journalistic investigation revealed that over 70% of priests in the area were accused of sexual misconduct. These incidents not only deeply harmed the victims, but also shattered the trust of millions of believers, especially as the Church was seen as lacking transparency and even attempting to cover up and protect the offending clergy. The failure to address these sexual abuse cases adequately led to international investigations. Countries such as Australia and Germany launched extensive probes into how the Church handled such allegations. The Vatican, too, faced criticism for having concealed these scandals for decades. From the abuse itself to the lack of accountability in protecting children, this issue remains a painful and lasting stain on the Church's modern history. Beyond sexual abuse, another controversial issue concerns the Church's financial management. The Vatican, whose assets are estimated to be worth billions of dollars, has been criticized for a lack of transparency in financial affairs. One of the biggest financial scandals involved the Vatican Bank during the 1980s, where it was implicated in money laundering and financial fraud. These investigations seriously damaged the Church's public image and raised doubts about its financial accountability. In the 1980s, one of the most shocking financial scandals in Catholic Church history erupted, centered on the Vatican Bank, officially known as the Institute for the Works of Religion, IOR. Established to manage funds for religious and charitable missions, the Vatican Bank suddenly found itself embroiled in a web of accusations, including money laundering, fraud, and ties to the Italian mafia. The scandal began with the collapse of Banco Ambrosiano, one of Italy's largest banks at the time, which had close ties to the Vatican Bank. The IOR was a major shareholder and guarantor in several financial transactions. Roberto Calvi, the chairman of Banco Ambrosiano, nicknamed God's Banker, was found dead in 1982, hanging from London's Blackfriars Bridge. Though initially suspected as a suicide, later evidence suggested his death was connected to illicit financial dealings and mafia involvement. Investigations revealed that Banco Ambrosiano had lost approximately $1.3 billion, much of it linked to accounts and operations involving the Vatican Bank. Numerous accusations arose, claiming that the IOR failed in its oversight duties and was even exploited as a vehicle for laundering money through international funds and secret organizations. These revelations severely damaged the Vatican Bank's financial credibility and provoked public outrage. The scandal prompted serious questions about transparency and accountability in the Catholic Church's financial management. Many began to wonder whether the donations given by believers for charitable and religious purposes were truly used as intended, or misappropriated through obscure financial dealings. Under pressure from public opinion and various governments, the Vatican was forced to initiate financial reforms. However, Efforts to bring those responsible to justice and to fully clarify the events remained contentious. Many believe the Vatican did not act decisively enough, and some individuals may have escaped legal consequences due to protection from powerful church networks. The Vatican Bank scandal stands not only as a painful lesson about the lack of transparency, but also as a blow to the faithful's trust in the church. It showed that even a powerful and sacred religious institution, like the Vatican, is not immune to abuses of power and worldly temptations. This event underscored the urgent need for financial reform and a reaffirmation of the moral values the Church represents to avoid repeating such mistakes in the future. Moreover, the Church's conservative stance on issues such as women's rights, same-sex marriage, and abortion has been a major point of contention. Recent popes, especially Pope Benedict XVI, have firmly upheld traditional views on these matters. For example, while many countries have legalized same-sex marriage, the Catholic Church continues to oppose it. This has led to significant disagreement within the faithful community, especially among the youth, who feel the Church is falling behind modern societal progress. These historical and current controversies indicate that the Pope and the Catholic Church, although symbols of faith and compassion, are not immune to criticism, mistakes, or conflict. These challenges raise questions about the Church's role in today's world and whether the reforms undertaken are sufficient to restore trust and preserve the Church's integrity. Despite enduring many difficult periods, the Catholic Church, under the leadership of various popes, has continually sought renewal, addressing past shortcomings and continuing to spread messages of love and peace. One of the most crucial reforms in church history has been a change in how the institution deals with sexual abuse. In recent decades, popes, especially Pope Francis, have implemented significant reforms to address this issue. Pope Francis established the Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors, an independent body tasked with oversight and preventative measures against abuse within the Church. He has made difficult decisions, including removing priests and religious officials involved in abuse, and has publicly apologized to victims. Additionally, the Church has introduced several reforms in financial management. In response to growing demands for transparency and accountability, Pope Francis created the Vatican Financial Committee to enhance transparency and ensure more effective financial governance. This body is responsible for monitoring and ensuring that Vatican funds and assets are used properly. These reforms not only help build trust among the faithful, but also affirm the Church's commitment to ethical and responsible stewardship. Beyond internal reforms, the Catholic Church has played an active and strong role in promoting peace and justice globally. In a world frequently marked by conflict and war, the Church remains a powerful voice, calling for peace and dialogue. Notably, Pope John Paul II was a prominent figure in advancing peace. He consistently called for an end to war, especially during the final years of the Cold War, when he played a key role in promoting the dissolution of the Soviet Union and encouraging dialogue between nations. Believing that peace is not merely the absence of war, but the presence of justice, he challenged world powers to seek sustainable and fair solutions. Apart from its contributions to peace, the Catholic Church has long been a leader in charitable and humanitarian efforts. Over centuries, it has established thousands of charitable organizations worldwide, providing food, healthcare, education, and essential services to the poor and disadvantaged. Renowned groups like Caritas Internationalis operate in war zones and disaster areas, delivering timely and invaluable aid to those in need. Moreover, the Church has significantly contributed to the defense of human rights. Popes have continually emphasized the importance of human dignity and religious freedom for all, regardless of nationality, ethnicity, or faith. During visits to countries under authoritarian regimes, Pope John Paul II spoke out forcefully in support of free expression and fundamental human rights. He played a vital role in denouncing apartheid in South Africa and fighting against slavery in various nations. Meanwhile, Pope Francis has been a vocal advocate for the rights of migrants and those marginalized in modern society. Through numerous speeches and policies, he has promoted tolerance and support for refugees, stressing that tolerance is not merely an act of charity, but a humanitarian duty for every individual and community. Despite facing criticism and challenges, the Catholic Church, under the leadership of the popes, has continued to rise and contribute positively to the development of humanity. Reforms in financial management, responses to sexual abuse, and charitable activities are helping the Church regain the trust of the faithful. Moreover, the popes have consistently dedicated their efforts to building a world of peace, justice, and compassion, affirming the Church's role as not just a religious institution, but also a source of spiritual encouragement and a force for social change. With its deep influence and spiritual strength, the Church remains a symbol of compassion and an active agent of peace and justice in today's world. Throughout this video, we have explored the Pope and the Catholic Church, a religious institution with global impact. We've delved into the Church's history and the Pope's role, from its formation and development to the positive contributions they bring to society. We have also acknowledged major controversies and criticisms, from the bloody crusades and the sale of indulgences to sexual abuse scandals. At the same time, we must also recognize the undeniable reforms and contributions of the Church, such as promoting peace, defending human rights, and engaging in global charity. With this multidimensional perspective, now it's your turn to reflect and form your own opinion about the Pope and the Catholic Church. Can the recent reforms and positive efforts restore trust and uphold the Church's integrity? Or are the historical controversies and scandals still too heavy to overcome? What matters most is maintaining a fair and thoughtful view, understanding that this is a complex issue with both light and shadow. Finally, thank you for watching this video. If you found the content interesting and want to learn more about similar topics, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss future updates. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks again, and see you in the next video.